Alright, Team Start back, of course, we're talking FF7. So we've been doing a lot of Rebirth content lately, and what we're talking about today does still pertain to Rebirth. But we're kind of hopping back a bit to Final Fantasy VII Remake. So recently, the Rebirth Japanese website was updated. It gave us a story synopsis for Remake, and it's your basic story synopsis. If you played Remake, you'll know everything here pretty much. But the interesting bit is towards the end, where they talk about like the singularity-related stuff. Really quickly though, shout out to TurquoiseHammer on Twitter for letting us know about this. If you guys have been following the channel for a while, we've talked a lot about, Remake in general, FF7 in general. We've talked a lot about the ending of Remake, Chapter 18, all that shit. And one thing that's always kind of bothered me is that after the events of the Singularity, after we fight the Whisper Harbinger, fight Sephiroth, Cloud and Sephiroth do the edge creation shit, it just kind of cuts to our group outside Midgar, on the cliff, outside overlooking Midgar. And it always felt weird to me, because, obviously with the original game, when we do, the highway stuff, our group, overlooks the horizon from the highway, and we climb down and then walk to Column, right? It always just felt strange to me that we just appeared out on the cliff, and apparently that is intentional. So obviously this synopsis is in Japanese. We got to do a little bit of auto-translating with some Google Lens. Maybe it's not 100% accurate, but it's going to be relatively accurate and get the point across. What matters here for what we're talking about today is the last couple sentences that say, "Beyond the Wall of Fate, Cloud pierces Sephiroth with a powerful blow. At that moment, the world was enveloped in light, and before I knew it, I was outside Midgar. In a world that has strayed from the rails of destiny, Cloud and his friends begin an unknown journey." So there's actually a couple takeaways from those couple of sentences, just kind of depending on how accurate the translation is. For starters, they referred to that Wall of Whispers as the Wall of Fate, so there seems to be an official term for that. I don't know what it'd be in English, because the Wall of Fate might be what they call it in Japanese. There's different names for shit. I think in the Japanese game, the Whispers themselves are called feelers or something weird like that. And we obviously call them Whispers. So I don't know if in the English version, the Whisper Wall would be called Wall of Fate or Wall of Whispers or Wall of Destiny, whatever. But there seems to be an official term for it, which is kind of cool. So it's pretty interesting just because I've not seen that. I've never seen an official term for it. I think we always call it a Wall of Whispers. And maybe that's somewhere in-game or in one of the Ultimanias or something. I don't think I've ever seen it. That was kind of interesting. But the main thing from this is that it talks about how whenever Cloud defeats Sephiroth, it envelops the world in light. Now that could be a translation error thing there too, but it might not have just been Midgard that was enveloped in all that light or whatever. Maybe the whole world's in that flash. But then also our group just kind of appeared outside Midgard. So at least according to the story synopsis, that was intentional. Our group, I guess, didn't walk out of the Singularity on the edge of the highway, overlook the horizon, overlook Midgar, and then climb down like they did in the original game. They just appeared outside Midgar. Which is pretty interesting, too, considering that we actually have key art, multiple pieces of key art for Remake, where our group is on the edge of the highway, when the sun's rising and shit. This actually brings up an interesting topic of the canon nature of key art, and I don't know that it's ever really meant to be canon. Because we have stuff in the original FF7, Aerith in front of the High Wind, which doesn't ever happen. You could maybe say that it could be at Junon where we first see the High Wind, but regardless, we don't ever see Aerith of the High Wind. And she's dead before we ever get our hands on it. And they also did a similar key art for Aerith for Remake, but they omitted the High Wind this time. But every other key art that they've kind of remade from the original FF7 is pretty much the same. But then specifically you have stuff like the Tifa key art, right? With the original FF7 and also Remake, where she's sitting on top of the well looking up at the stars in Nibelheim. As far as I'm aware, that never happened, right? We go to Nibelheim in the story with FF7, and Tifa doesn't climb up there and just stargaze or whatever the fuck. There are certain key arts that you could probably say are canon, like Kate Sith being inside Gold Saucer. Obviously that did literally happen. But when it comes to the key art we have for Remake of our groups on the edge of the highway, the thing is, we know that is supposed to be canon based on the original FF7, right? We beat Motorball, and then we overlook the horizon, and then we have a conversation, and then we climb down and go to Calm. And at least according to the story synopsis we have from the Japanese Rebirth website, that didn't happen. Our group fought Sephiroth or whatever, and then they just appeared outside Midgar. The real questions that stem from this would be how, who, and why. Why exactly was our group teleported directly from, the Singularity kind of edge creation, whatever, straight outside Midgar? Who would have done it, and how do they do it? The who is at least one or two people, either Sephiroth or Aerith. They both have that kind of power, I would say. More so Sephiroth, obviously, based on the ending of Remake, too. But it's one of them, and I feel like it'd be more so Sephiroth, too, because it seems like he was manipulating our group, he wanted us to defeat the Whisper Harbinger so he could absorb all that power, memories, energy, whatever the hell he's absorbing at the end of the game, right? That could also be part of the why, right? He needs our group, he needs our help, and specifically at the end of the game with Edge Creation, he's asking Cloud for his help. So we know that he was kind of toying with us because we beat his ass, and then he's perfectly fine afterwards, and he accepts the blow from Cloud to do the explosion and go to Edge Creation, right? He is intentionally fucking with our group, and maybe he needs us or at the very least Cloud for something. That's why he maybe transported us from Singularity outside Midgar into maybe a bit of a changed world potentially. We know that it's not a changed world as in Terror Timeline, because we've seen the Beagle logo in the background of the trailer. Maybe there's something a little bit different. And that's where we can look back to the very end of the story synopsis that says, in a world that has strayed from the rails of destiny, Cloud and his friends begin an unknown journey. The whole unknown journey thing and things being different is something I talk about a lot on the channel. I tried to get in people's minds a little bit because the devs do say in certain interviews that the game is not, or the trilogy is not straying too far from the original game, right? That's something they have said quite a bit. But they also push this shit. The unknown journey will continue. They say that at the end of Remake. I think with the beginning of our Summer Game Fest trailer, or near the beginning, they say the unknown journey continues, and then you got the story synopsis here that talks about them straying away from the rails of destiny. And it's like, well, what is it? Is it a new story? Is it an unknown journey? Are we breaking away from the rails of destiny, or are we just getting FF7 again? Like, I don't know why they can't be clear about that. And the reason I bring up the unknown journey stuff is that I do think that we're going to get, obviously, a lot of FF7 original, but there's going to be a new goal, a new plan, a new end game, or whatever for Sephiroth. Because what we see at the end of Remake, like, why would he need to do Meteor again? A meteor to within the planet absorb live stream to become powerful, right? He's already essentially a god at the end of Remake. Now, maybe he wants to do that just to get more powerful, but I don't think that's the case. I think there's something else, right? I think there's a new plan. There's a reason he's asking for Cloud's help at the end of the game in the Edge of Creation. I don't know what the end goal is. Obviously, if we're just talking about, like, the new stuff, there's clearly, like, something new going on with Zack, right? With the fucking rift in the sky. Seemingly, he still would be in Terror Timeline. There's something going on there, right? So, like, there's obviously new shit. Like, I don't even know why this is really a topic about whether or not they're going to keep to the original or stray away from it. Also, if we want to give, like, a narrative reason for why there's no data transfer, it could be something to do with Sephiroth. Assuming that Sephiroth is the one that transported us from the Singularity to the cliff outside of Midgar, maybe he stripped us of all of our shit, or reset us, restarted us, or whatever the fuck. Because if you look at, like, the gameplay that we have so far for Rebirth with, like, the Summer Game Fest trailer and the recent trailer, like, I think our group just has, like, their default weapons, right? Like, Cloud, I think, only has the Buster Sword. Bear has, like, the gun arm, shit like that, right? So I think you can maybe give a narrative reason for it, like, whatever we changed or did within the Singularity / Edge of Creation, maybe kind of reset all of us. Another interesting detail that somebody pointed out, we were having a conversation about this, I don't remember if it was on Twitter, YouTube comments, what, but they mentioned the quote from Aerith on the highway before we go through the Wall of Fate or whatever into the Singularity. She says, if we do this, we'll be changing more than fate itself. If we win, if we succeed, we'll be changing ourselves. And that could also explain the reset, right? Maybe us defeating Whisper Harbinger / Sephiroth, defeating Sephiroth. Maybe that's what kind of resets us back to the basics or something. I don't know. Actually, another cool detail that we could actually maybe mention is that when we look back at that translation, assuming that it is accurate, it says that whenever Cloud pierces Sephiroth with a powerful blow, at that moment, the world was enveloped in light. So that would mean that whenever we see Cloud hit Sephiroth, the explosion happens and he gets pulled to Edge of Creation. When that explosion's happening is when the explosion on Midgar is happening, which we already kind of knew or assumed, but now we seem to have confirmation of that, because this says that whenever he hits Sephiroth, that's when the world's enveloped in light. It's kind of cool. More or less the video, my dudes. The main point of this video, though, was obviously to talk about, like, our group being transported from the Singularity outside of Midgar. I've always found that weird. I've always put a lot of emphasis on it. I've seen a lot of theories out there. I don't watch a lot of theory videos, but I've read up on a lot of theories. We've discussed a lot of theories. I've just not personally seen a lot of people put emphasis on that. We've talked about it a lot. And it seems like from the dev's perspective with the story synopsis, that was intentional. To either confuse us, confuse the party, whatever the fuck. I don't think our group forgot the Singularity, because they obviously talk about Sephiroth. Like, Barrett says, I thought you defeated him, and Cloud, like, shakes his head no, right? So, like, they remember the Singularity. They remember everything happening, but they just maybe don't know how they got to that cliff edge. We obviously kind of went on some tangents and talked about other shit, too, because if we just talked about, like, the group being transported from one location to the other, this would have been, like, a 2-3 minute video. I want to talk about some other shit, too. Kind of the whole thing. The rest of the story synopsis doesn't really matter. It's all basic shit about, like, the Remake story. It's really just those last couple of sentences that are interesting. By the way, if you guys made it this far into the video, I want to thank everybody for the support on the channel lately. The subs have been going up. The views have kind of been going up, too. We're hitting like 2,000-3,000 views per video here the last several videos. That shit feels good as a content creator, because usually my videos are like 1,000-something views. We might break into like the 2,000 range sometimes. But usually we're just kind of stagnating around the same amount of views. And here lately, because of obviously all the Rebirth shit, the channel's just doing better. And that feels fucking fantastic as a content creator. We've been here the whole time, man. We've been talking about the Remake project technically since 2015, and we're not going anywhere anytime soon. We got to be like maybe the most consistent, or one of the most consistent FF7 channels out there, right? When the news and info's dry and everybody moves on to talk about other shit, we're still here finding a way to talk about FF7 somehow. But yeah, I just appreciate the support lately, my dudes. It feels good. That is indeed the video. Subscribe to if you guys are new. Social networks in the description below. Follow me on Twitter at @DavidYT. That's it. Bye.
Used to care what people thought, but now I care more, and nobody out here's got it figured out. So therefore I've lost all hope of a happy ending, depending on whether or not it's worth it. So insecure, no one's perfect. We spend it with no shame, we blow that like Coltrane. We in here like Rogaine, or leave it like Cobain.